Good evening, Bulls fans. This is Matt Kritzmacher with UBBullRun.com. I'm joined by John McWhinney, as I am every Sunday night at 10 p.m. This is now the sixth edition this year, 6 weeks in of the Olympic Sports Roundup. This is every Sunday evening. We look past football and basketball and talk about every other sport. Last week, we ran through 8 different sports in an hour, busiest weekend of the year so far, and it will be until the fall, or until the spring, excuse me. This weekend immediately behind us, a little less busy. We'll have a little bit more time to focus on each individual team, and we'll see where it takes us. Every Sunday at 10. Thanks for joining us now. Thanks for watching us after the fact, if you're watching after the fact. And yeah, I'm joined by John. John, I'll just turn it over to you.
Oh, just doing great. Trying to hang on with school and just hang on until graduation.
September
I'm sure
20th.
How that one goes.
September 20th, everybody. Just trying to hang on till graduation.
Yep. Just trying to keep my GPA where it is. Hopefully, get a job.
Those are good things to aim for. John, you were you able to make it to any? I guess men's soccer was home, and no one else was home this weekend.
Yeah, this weekend I was not able to make it to men's soccer Friday. I had something going on Friday night, and then today, so like Sunday afternoons for me is I'm purely dedicated to watching football, American football, that is. So I got disappointed by the Bills. So
well,
that's how I started.
This Packers-Seahawks game is the first game I'm watching today, but it sounds like your Cardinals did okay.
Oh, they did. And my dad's a Bears fan too, so I got to give him a nice phone call and brag to him.
Brag. Well, we'll start with men's soccer. You didn't catch either game. The story about men's soccer this season has been, or maybe not this season, the last few weeks, has been an issue with scoring goals. Coming into this weekend, they had gone 3 straight games without a goal, and in the game prior, they scored in the 4th minute of a game that went to double overtime. So that's 385 minutes without a goal coming into this weekend. And going up against Lafayette on Friday, I was really excited for that matchup. Last year's game against Lafayette, I thought, was one of the best of the year for UB. It was a 1-0 loss in which both goaltenders made 8 or 9 saves, some real strong defending on both sides. And I was really looking forward to see how UB, who isn't improved this year, would fare against Lafayette. And we got a really similar game to last year, except that UB's last gasp defending wasn't quite as strong, and the Leopards were able to score 20-ish minutes in and then extend their lead in the second half. That time, when we talk about UB struggling to score, it has continued. Russell Cicerone got a penalty kick and put it off the post. He would score later in the game as UB tried to get a comeback from a 2-0 down. They scored once and had a few chances in the last 10 minutes. But really, it was a very similar game to how we've seen teams beat UB lately. Lafayette got a lead and then absolutely ironed down their defense and brought everyone down behind the ball and gave UB no room to operate. They were content to let Buffalo have possession in the midfield for as long as they wanted, but UB couldn't find anything. Today's match against Niagara was a rarity in general, not just even on this season, in that UB had a 2-goal lead. They've had 2-goal leads fewer than 10 times over the last 3 years. They scored both goals in the first 10 minutes. From Braden Scales, who is ridiculously improved this season. He had the first goal off a throw-in from Marcus Hansen. I believe it's Hansen's 6th assist of the year. And then their second goal came from Russell Cicerone off an assist from Scales, and that's Scales' first multi-point game of his career. Niagara really controlled the second half and was able to come back and score the tying goal at the 87th minute and forced a tie, which is really disappointing because Niagara has been absolutely offensively punchless up until today, this season. Up until this weekend, I suppose. They beat Bonaventure 4-0. Officially, the game ended as a tie. unofficially, the Big Four Shield, the rotating trophy between Canisius, Niagara, Buffalo, and Bonaventure was in play. So the teams did go to a shootout, which UB won 4-3, and they maintained the Shield. And if they beat Bonaventure later this season, they will keep the Shield for the year, which last year Canisius had it. Bonaventure is by far the worst team of the four, it seems. They lost to Niagara 4-0, and like I said, Niagara had no offense until this weekend. They were averaging 5 shots per game, not shots on goal, but shots, period. And so that's why I'm a little disappointed in the tie, but I'm also glad to see UB score 2 goals. It seems like, John, as their offense has stuttered, we've seen more of a Russell Cicerone-centric offense. What worked for them early in the season was not a Russell Cicerone-centric offense, but he's good enough to score goals when no one else is. I don't know if you have anything to say on soccer.
Yeah, I noticed that too. He scored the goal. I believe he was the one that scored the goal against Lafayette. I think it was in the 84th minute, and he scored the second goal, the first half today. I don't know. I'm a little disappointed with the men's soccer team. Ever since they beat Canisius 4-2 on the first of the month. Since then, they're 0-4-2. And as I recall, you saying in the Bull Run back offices that we were supposed to curb stomp Niagara today, and I was checking Twitter the whole day to keep track of what was going on and everything. And I saw we were up 2-0. I was like, oh, Matt was right. It should be smooth sailing from here. But then that little voice in the back of my head that really likes hockey chimed in. He said, well, a 2-goal lead is the worst lead to have in hockey. So same applied here.
Yeah. Niagara has good players. Niagara has the Ferguson brothers, who both played for FC Buffalo and were summer-long starters and real contributors for FC Buffalo. And I believe one of their goal scorers today was a freshman. They've got some good players, but they did nothing on offense their first 6 or 7 games of the year. And then they went and beat Bonaventure 4-0 on Friday, which everyone is going to beat Bonaventure 4-0 this year. Like, that's just how it's going to be. And then I only caught the game with 10 minutes to go in the second half is when I was able to start tuning in. But yeah, you jump out to a 2-0 lead 15 minutes in. You shouldn't lose that. And UB doesn't have much experience playing with a lead at all. Last year they had many comebacks to force overtime or to come from behind and then get the win. In terms of UB having a 2-goal lead, period, they had 2-goal leads against Belmont and Canisius earlier this season. Those were both wins. And then I should have been more ready to turn this around quickly. And then last year they had a 2-goal lead against Bonaventure, which was a win. And I think that was their only 2-goal lead of last year. And then in 2013, Stu Riddle's first season, I think they had a 2-0 lead on Hartwick and maybe Gannon and maybe Northern Illinois. And Hartwick was a win. Gannon was a win. And then, let me get there. Hartwick, Gannon. Oh, they came from behind in Northern Illinois. So they've only had 2-goal leads 5 times in the last 3 years in the Stu Riddle era. It's not an excuse at all. It's just something that I noticed. They're not a team that we see play with the lead very often. Even as they were winning to start the season, I can see why that would be an unfamiliar situation to them. Even that Canisius game, they came from behind. They lost the lead and came from behind. And so they might have been a different mentality there. But I definitely feel the frustration. I think, we got another year out of Cicerone. and I'm not writing off this year at all, but in terms of where the program is in its building, I'm really hoping out of this year for a strong showing in the MAC and entry in the MAC tournament to show that in Cicerone's senior year, when all these guys, this absolute loaded core of the team is juniors and seniors, to show that we can contend for a MAC championship that year. And Akron can be ranked whatever you want, but you've only got to win 2 games to win a MAC championship. You know, Bowling Green upset West Virginia last year and was able to get into a championship game against Akron, and Akron won. But you don't have to go on too much of a Cinderella run to get there. So I'm really hoping that's my goal for next year, and that's where I decide kind of how happy or upset I am with men's soccer. But it's definitely in the short term. The last few weeks have not been pretty, and it's not that they're playing poorly. They're getting tons of offensive chances. I think in the last 3 weeks they've hit 6 crossbars and 4 posts and had 3 goals called offsides.
Yeah, I think someone might have a magnet inside the ball that's just kind of curving the ball up to the crossbar.
Yeah,
just my
engineering perspective.
Yeah, there's something screwy going on there. And yeah, I remember last Sunday when we talked, I mentioned something about the Spectrum saying that Cicerone had sizzled out, and then he comes back this week and scores 2 goals. So that was nice to see at the very least. Yeah, I mean, I really hope this coming week that they beat Stony Brook, because I hate Stony Brook, and
yep.
Honestly, there's no reason we should be losing to any other SUNY school in any sport.
Yep. And we need to acknowledge this more and more. Well, right now in the Massey ratings, here, this is a kicker, and I think these are behind. So the Massey ratings are this fellow named Massey, who does ratings for all sports, just like the Sagarin ratings from Jeff Sagarin does basketball and football. But he does them for all sports, and so he's kind of my go-to spot for some comparisons. So this is before this weekend, coming into this weekend, before UB's loss to Lafayette and tie against Niagara, but Stony Brook is listed 181 and Buffalo's 182. And that's coming into this weekend. And let me go to Stony Brook and see what they did this weekend. But there's just no, I 100% agree. I will never be happy with anything but a win against SUNY teams in any sport. Stony Brook only played Villanova and lost to them. That's not a shameful loss. Villanova's pretty good. I hope we win. I think we can. I also think we can lose by quite a bit. It's kind of an unknown there for men's soccer. But yeah, they've got Stony Brook, and then I think they have a second game this coming weekend. Then they host Cornell.
Yeah.
Cornell, I'm a little bit less cranky about beating Cornell all the time, but last year Cornell had our number across all sports. And Cornell's right in that 180 range in the Massey ratings as well. They had our number in all sports. They beat us in a real fluky women's soccer game. We raced against them once in cross country and they were faster. Raced against them once in rowing and they were faster. And then
wrestling is like the only sport where I will concede to Cornell. Just
rowing.
Cornell is consistently like a top 5, top 10 team in the nation.
Yeah. I think rowing. I think Cornell will always be ahead. Last year it took until women's basketball, and by that point, like 6 of our teams had gone up against Cornell, and nobody had won. Or maybe women's basketball lost too, and it wasn't until men's basketball beat them. I can't believe this. I just got called out by an Ohio fan about the safety call from 2013. So, Bobcat fans, I'm talking football now. We're not supposed to do that, but stop talking about your safety call.
Well, stupid Bobcat fans are stupid, so there's that.
Yeah. Anyway, men's soccer, Stony Brook and Cornell would be great to see 2 wins. Wouldn't really be surprised by any combination of results. I think if you ask me for predictions, I think I'd say tie against Stony Brook and win versus Cornell.
Mm-hmm.
And that's partially because of the home road split. It's partially just gut reactions.
Well, moving on to something a little bit more happy. Volleyball. First win of the Blair Brown.
They had to play Navy, who I don't think I imagine that Navy sports have the same size limitations in volleyball that they do in football, and so I wonder how much of a fight Navy could put up. But Navy did have 2 wins and we had 0. What stood out to me in scouting Navy was they only had 10 blocks on the season. They were averaging 1 block a match, and they're just undersized across the board. And UB had 8 blocks against Navy, and they were all solo blocks. That's really strange to see. And Navy only had 2 blocks against Buffalo. So, but yeah, UB beat Navy. Hit .318, which is far and away their best hitting percentage of the season. Absolutely far and away. Up until a week and a half ago, they were averaging .03 hitting percentage. That's averaging. So hitting percentage is for, not for John, but for our 2 viewers right now. It's a question of how efficient are you. So your total number of attacks is the denominator of the ratio. And then the top is your number of kills over attacks. But errors, when you try to spike the ball and hit it out instead of hitting it in, count as a -1. And an attack that the other team digs and doesn't turn into a point immediately is a 0. And so 318 is quite good. That means UB was getting points on 30% of their attacks. I think upper echelon teams in the country hit around 300s for the year. So a 300 percentage in any match or set is usually pretty good for a win. And I think UB – go ahead.
I just pulled up the Navy roster, actually, because I was curious because you mentioned the whole size thing. The one thing that actually really stands out to me besides the whole – regardless of size, is that their team is comprised of basically all freshmen and sophomores with a couple seniors and a junior sprinkled in there. So they kind of match up well. I mean, age-wise with UB, because there's a ton of freshmen and sophomores on UB, ton of freshmen and sophomores there. As far as height goes, they have 7 players that's 6 feet or taller, and their shortest player is 5'6". So I mean, all their players are between I'd say, just doing quick math in my head, their average is about 5'10", 5'11".
Well, that's better than I thought. Somehow they don't get blocks, and that's for UB's hitters that are struggling to play efficiently. That was a free game. In that one, Megan Lipsky got 16 kills. Pretty sure that's a season high for her. We don't have a box score from Syracuse today, and we'll get to today's games in a moment. We don't have a box score from Syracuse today yet, but Megan Lipsky is averaging 15 kills a match over her last 4 matches, and I think she's averaging 12 or 13 over her last 6. So in all the preseason run-up, I was saying Lipsky needs to be consistent this year. We absolutely need her to be consistent, and we need to find someone in addition to Lipsky and Shadow to run this offense. And it took a bit. It took getting into the part of the schedule that maybe wasn't against nationally ranked teams. But last half dozen matches, Megan Lipsky is playing like a senior with experience. And Felicia Watkins is playing like a freshman who's figuring it out. Against New Hampshire today, like I said, we'll get to these 2. So Bulls were in Syracuse. They got this win over Navy yesterday and had 2 more games today against New Hampshire and Syracuse. They lost both, and we don't have a box score from Syracuse yet, because why would we update our websites when we host volleyball tournaments? But against New Hampshire, even though UB lost in three sets, they played really well, as far as I can tell from the box score. We're within 2 or 3 points in each set, which is not something they could say about any game this year. Hit in the 200s for the match. Lipsky had 15 kills, and Felicia Watkins, who I just mentioned, had 14. I think that's the highest combined total for the two of them in a match this year, and that's what I had been harping on, is UB needs to find more diversity in their offense. The flip side, where UB has been struggling, even as the outside hitters warm up, is on their back end defense. Whether it's serves coming in or just digging opposing teams' attacks, UB's really struggling to pass the ball well to their setter, Marissa Prinsbeck, so that they can turn that into effective attacks. And Tessa Oyama has replaced Nikki Bozanowski as libero. I don't know how I feel about that, but I haven't been able to watch a game in a little bit. And Oyama has up and down games. Sometimes she's pretty good, and sometimes she has tons of errors in service reception. And that's something that hurt the Bulls last year, and it's hurting the Bulls this year. And, you know, in a match where Buffalo today lost their 3 sets against New Hampshire, 25-23, 25-21, and 25-22, Oyama had 6 errors in service reception. And that's 6 points given away. You know, UB hit far better than they did over the season. They only had 3 blocks. That's a little frustrating. But they had plenty of digs. They, in just 3 sets, had 120 attacks. So they're getting better at actually turning possession into offense versus just trying not to lose. And those nine reception errors are kind of, you take 7 of those back and maybe UB wins a set and has some momentum. They could clearly play with New Hampshire. Mm-hmm. And I say all of that literally only working from the box score. So I acknowledge that.
Yeah. So kind of what I'm gathering, or what I've gathered from I've said this before, my knowledge of volleyball is quite limited, but the team, it seems like they're more competitive. They're being more competitive as the season goes along. Is that a stretch for me to say that?
Not at all a stretch. Sorry, just sending off a tweet. Not at all a stretch. Part of that is schedule. Part of that is, you know, UB in their first weekend faced Penn State, Villanova, and Stony Brook, and Stony Brook was the most winnable, and it wasn't won. I think if they replay that game today, UB wins. Mm-hmm. Then they went out and faced 2 NCAA tournament teams in Washington and Murray State. That didn't go very well. And then they had Ole Miss, Belmont, and Southern Miss. And Belmont was the worst team of those 3, and that's who UB did the worst against. They took 2-0 leads both on Ole Miss and Southern Miss, who between the 2 of them only had 1 loss coming into that tournament. And now they were crap against Canisius, nothing short of crap. I guess we didn't talk about that, but we don't want to. UB lost to Canisius. I guarantee to win. That sucked.
Yeah, just it's a whole bad week for predictions on Bull Run.
Yeah, it was. They are definitely playing better. I think we're seeing. You talked early in the season about Blair Brown Lipsitz, excuse me. Finding a winning formula, and we still see that experimentation. She's started to use more subs instead of just playing her 6 or 7. She's mixed in kind of some attackers here and there. You know, it seems to have settled into Lipsky and Watkins, but Madison Clark's played a bit. Megan Warnett has played her way into the rotation. As Amber Hatchett, I should have double-checked on that, because Amber Hatchett did not play against Canisius, and it looks like she didn't play against Navy or New Hampshire, so whatever her injury is, it's somewhat serious, but Megan Warnett has stepped in there. And we're seeing, you know, Tessa Oyama's in at libero for Nikki Bozanowski, and it's kind of coming together. We'll see. I think we're in a really good place schedule-wise. We really should have beaten Canisius, got that win against Navy, showed well against New Hampshire, who was 6-6 coming into this weekend, and I thought that their schedule wasn't all too impressive, so I thought there was a chance to play them tight. And looking past that 3-0 sweep of the sets, within each set, UB did play New Hampshire tight. Good news. This is where I'm trying to go with this. Upcoming MAC schedule. UB's finally coming home. First home games of the year this coming weekend. Finally starting MAC play with 2 home games. They're getting Akron and Toledo, who were the bottom 2 teams in the conference last year. And even with a new coach, even with a ton of losses at outside hitter, even with Talia Bishop, the one multi-time first-team All-MAC player we've ever had, gone before her senior year, UB was still picked above Akron in the MAC East in the preseason coaches poll. And Toledo did not have a win last year until UB played them. UB needed a win against them in the last match of the year to go to the MAC tournament, and instead of it being simple open and shut, it went 5 sets. So that was a bad memory to bring back up. But Akron and Toledo to open MAC play, 2 worst teams in the MAC by a long shot last year, probably still the 2 worst teams in the MAC this year. Or I'll put the 2 of them in Buffalo together. But there's a real good chance that UB gets another win this coming weekend. Maybe 2. I feel like I should whisper that. Maybe 2. But they're coming home. They're coming home, and they're playing 2 bad teams. And they are playing better lately. I would not disagree with that at all, John.
Hey, they're back home Thursday at 7, so I should be able to go to that.
Oh, good, because I am busy on Thursdays now, too. And that works. And then men's soccer's on the road, so we won't be able to follow them beyond live stats anyway. That's good. Great. We'll have Bull Run representation in volleyball, and they can finally get a video recap.
So the fans at home can watch me stumble through a couple-minute recap.
Just talking generalities, it works. Volleyball's tough because there's lots of details, whereas soccer is very much momentum and, 1 or 2 highlighted plays. Find Paige and let him talk to you for a bit. He'll learn you, do you some learning.
Yeah. So another positive, another thing. Are we done with volleyball?
Done with volleyball, but it's all positives from here on out. We kind of started with the lowest, men's soccer, and have worked our way up. So I don't know which one you're going to pick next.
Oh, I was going to go with cross country. I was just kind of going in the order we had our notes laid out. And cross country went down and competed in the Iona Meet of Champions.
Just the women.
And last year they finished 6th. They improved on that and finished 4th this year. And for the second, I think it's their second competition or third.
Third. Especially for the women. The men sent not much of a group to Colgate, but the women seem to have sent their main group to Colgate. Mm-hmm. So I'm calling it their third.
Okay, so really, it's been confirmed now for the 3rd time that Sharday Henry is absolutely the real deal.
Yeah.
Last year, Melinda Wheeler had the fastest time of any competitor with 23 minutes, 25 seconds. Sharday Henry, as a freshman this year, had 23 minutes and 6 seconds. And Amy Shaw and Corin Burchard both beat Melinda Wheeler's fast time from last year. And so all around, everyone got faster across the board from the top 7.
I've spent 2 weeks now saying could be something really good here with women's cross country. I want to pump the brakes because we don't train in cross country for early season races. We don't know what the weather conditions are like, how difficult the course was compared to last year. But this is now 3 meets in a row where women's cross country is across the board 30 seconds to a minute faster than their time on the same situation last year. Melinda Wheeler ran the same race that she did on the same course last year and went from UB's top runner to UB's 5th runner. And UB's got their whole 5 scores came in 28 seconds. That's a ridiculously tight pack. That's how you win. You get 1 or 2 people who can run in the top of the pack, and you get everyone else to be within 30 seconds of them. Sharday Henry, we've talked about her. Her favorite movie is Goon, so John and I like her for that. The hockey fans that we are. Amy Shaw, this is another edition of Matt and John are really good at what they do. I predicted this from Amy Shaw. I said Amy Shaw had a strong track season, and I think she makes a big improvement cross country season. And she's been UB's second or third runner in each of these 3 races, I think. But she dropped 47 seconds from the same course last year. And this is in Van Cortlandt Park in the Bronx, by the way, even though Iona is a little further up the Hudson. And Van Cortlandt Park is not an easy place to race. I raced there a bit in high school, and you've got a long flat stretch to start, and then you go all uphill, and then you come all downhill. And just mentally, it's a really tough course to handle that way, because you don't want to go too fast on the flats because you know you got to go uphill, and then you've got to come back downhill. And how much did you burn yourself out? Did you save too much on the uphill? It's a real tough course to pace out. So dropping 56 seconds there is pretty serious. And she's only a sophomore now, and Amy Shaw is going to be a name you want to know. Really exciting addition to Sharday Henry that Rachel Barrich is another freshman really showing up. She's Sharday's training partner, and they're both looking real strong. You know, men's cross country only lost 1 senior or 1 person coming into this year. Women's cross country lost 2, but the women seem to really be reloading in a big way. They're top 7 at this race in Iona. No seniors in this list at all. And so keep an eye on women's cross country this year. You know, as John said at the beginning, they finished 4th in this meet. I'm not sure how many teams were there. I think it was 16. Last year it was 20. Last year they finished 6th. This year they finished 4th, and 2 of the teams in front of them, Wisconsin and Princeton, maybe. Well, the 3 teams in front of them were Wisconsin, Johns Hopkins, and Princeton. 2 of those teams are nationally ranked. I know that Wisconsin's nationally ranked. I don't know if Johns Hopkins or Princeton is the other. Point being, UB finished 4th behind 2 nationally ranked teams. Last year, they finished 6th in this meet and got into the regional rankings the following week. And then they had a poor meet at Lehigh and fell back out while the men stayed in the rankings. But they got in the regional rankings last year with a 6th place finish at this meet. And this year they've got a 4th place finish. They ran 30 seconds faster across the board than last year. And they beat 2 teams who were in Iona and Yale. Iona and Yale were ranked 11th and 12th in the Northeast regional rankings coming into this week, and UB beat them both. So that comes out tomorrow. I'm really excited. I'm really kind of waiting for it. I think UB could jump up to 12 from being unranked, jumped up to 12 in the Northeast. And I really love the regional rankings in cross country because the MAC is a pretty strong cross country conference, but we don't go head to head with the MAC, who are all in the Great Lakes region. We go head to head with all the Ivy League schools, and then Penn State, Boston College, Syracuse, Rutgers, UConn, I suppose. But we go just like tennis. Cross country sees a lot of high quality teams just in their everyday week to week competition, even before they get to any sort of big invitational or big event. So women's cross country I'm kind of rolling up the hype on women's cross country here. We'll see how they do at Lehigh, but I'm ready to really start pushing them as a team that can make some noise. They finished 7th in the MAC last year for the 3rd consecutive year, but if they improve by 45 seconds like they have so far this season, that jumps them up from 7th to 3rd in last year's standings. They've already beaten Toledo once this year. Toledo's a historically strong MAC program. Really really excited about this team right now. And I hope that once they go to Lehigh in a couple weeks, I get to be more excited.
Yeah, another just a little tidbit that I thought I'd throw out there. Sade Henry and Rachel Barrett, the top two freshmen that we had talked about, both are from Ontario. And I know you harp
do I harp?
All the time about
I think harp may be a little weak, to be honest, for how heavily I hit this point.
But yeah, it's a perfect illustration of your point that Ontario has a lot to offer in terms of sports talent, and our two top freshmen on the women's cross country team. One, Sade Henry, is the fastest person on the team, and Rachel Barrett is fourth. She came in fourth at the Iona meet, and that kind of signals to me that we really need to get like a job in the department and just yell at the coaches to go up to Canada and not come back until you have like a full busload of recruits.
I mean, it's happening. You know what? I think the only team that football, yes. Men's and women's soccer, yes.
Wrestling, no.
That's where I'm going with this. Is the only team I think that doesn't have someone from Southern Ontario standing out in some way is your boy John Stutzman.
But he does have the top wrestler from Trinidad and Tobago.
And the top wrestler, one of the top high school wrestlers at 152 pounds coming in. And he does okay in Pennsylvania. So
yeah, like I've said this a million times too. Pennsylvania is the Texas of wrestling.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
we'll give him a pass. I don't even know if people wrestle in Ontario. I feel like there must be.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Canada, they do. They have wrestling.
I can't believe how ridiculous that sounds. Like, do people wrestle in Ontario?
Wrestle in Canada?
They sometimes have their signs in French and they put U's in their words, but do they wrestle, or is that
they
cross the border and it's a no wrestling zone,
No. When they do it, they go out onto an ice rink, they rip off their flannel shirt, and they go one-on-one with a grizzly bear. That's the way they do it up in Canada.
I'm running this conversation through my head, like when I watch this again tomorrow, and I feel like I'm going to be embarrassed by it, but I'm not right now. Anyway, John Stutzman, you're behind the times. Everyone else has a Canadian at UB, and you don't. So,
but he's ahead of the times. He has a guy from Trinidad and Tobago.
That's true. I knew you were going with the Nate Rose reference, and you still hit it well.
Yeah, moving right along.
Moving on. Let's do that.
I think this next thing we're going to talk about, you and I have been hyped over this since the Women's World Cup.
Oh my goodness, yes, please.
When women's soccer went to Morgantown and took on West Virginia, and West Virginia goes.
I know. I'm gonna use the fact that we're on at 10 o'clock to get away with this, and I don't think many children watch our show, but if they do, sorry, women's soccer effing showed up in Morgantown. Like, you look at the stat line and you say, oh my goodness, absolutely dominated. And yeah, they were absolutely dominated, but they executed their game plan and got what they wanted out of that game. And maybe instead of talking in vagaries, we should actually talk about what happened. But women's soccer in West Virginia, we're going to tell you about it right now because it was awesome.
Yeah, so for those, if I don't know, I can't see if anyone's still watching.
We got one.
Okay, so if
it's probably
one
Kevin
person
G.
watching,
Hi, Kevin G.
So if for the person watching or anyone who will watch this in the future who doesn't know, if you don't know anything about women's soccer, what you need to know is that West Virginia has two players, one being Khadijah Buchanan, who played on the Canadian women's national team in the World Cup. And Buchanan in particular is one of the, I would say, top 5 women's players in the world.
I might not say 5. I might not say 5 because you once you go 5, you've got Wambach Lloyd, Alex Morgan when healthy, Nadine Angerer.
Okay, we'll say 10.
We'll say 10 because I think I can go 3 from the U.S., 2 from Germany, Marta from Brazil, that one from France who was ridiculous this summer, and then from Canada, Chrissy Rampone has to be ahead of Buchanan still. Not Rampone, Sinclair. Sorry, Canadian American mix up. Anyway, so, Buchanan is amazing. Legitimately one of the 10 best players in the world. Legit.
Yeah, she won, I believe, the best young player award at the World Cup. So she really, really freaking good. And UB, the defense did not break. Coach Burke had a masterful game plan, and it worked.
Yeah, again. I mean, his game plan was let's not lose by 3, but defense kept its shape constantly. You almost never saw UB even try to go on offense, just because they were going to get burned. And the few times that you did, UB earned a free kick, and the free kick was cleared, and West Virginia immediately went on the counter, and that was off of a free kick. UB had all of West Virginia's players in the box, and they still almost got burned on the run back. What UB did here was they absolutely bunkered down and packed all their defense into the final. Imagine a 5-on-3 power play in hockey, and imagine it for 90 minutes, and that's what UB did, and it worked. And it worked because in the middle of the field, UB was quick to the ball and quick to West Virginia's players. And they were able, even West Virginia was getting shots, they were able to get a foot in there. They were able to deflect it a bit. Laura Dougal had 3 absolutely tremendous saves in the second half. Like this was not far from being a 6-0 game, but it was a 0-0 game through regulation. And UB just played hard and aggressive. And talking about the defense, and you already brought up Khadijah, and Khadijah she's a fullback for Canada, but she plays in the middle of the defense for West Virginia. So she didn't really factor in much because we just never tried to put the ball past her. Although Rebecca Bramble did, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But first, speaking of defense and speaking of Khadijah Buchanan, Canadian World Cup, they also, West Virginia, have Ashley Lawrence, who was also on the Canadian World Cup team. And she plays at midfield and was really attacking UB up and down the flanks. And West Virginia also has Michaela Abam, who is on the U.S. U20 national team. And West Virginia also has 5 further players who were all Big Ten first or second team last year. If you remember how dominant UB was against the MAC last year, West Virginia was that dominant against the Big 12. I said Big 10 a moment ago. Big 12 last year. They're absolutely loaded. And back to Ashley Lawrence, Bree Shingary took Ashley Lawrence on one-on-one a half dozen times. And sometimes Lawrence got crosses, sometimes she didn't. But we've been seeing Shingary's praise since the exhibition against Cleveland State. She got the start there, and we said, I wonder what Burke is doing. She's listed as a midfielder forward. Got the start back on the defense, and Shingary has to be the biggest surprise of the women's soccer season so far. She's not really undersized, but she just always keeps getting matched up with the other team's biggest players, and she consistently shuts them down. And she's high energy, and she's tremendous. She's this year's Julia Bonatti, in terms of a freshman who comes in and plays every game and is never a liability. Julia Bonatti was never a liability last year, and Shingary has not at all been a liability this year. And she went toe-to-toe against Ashley Lawrence against a World Cup. Ashley Lawrence scored a goal in the World Cup, and Brianna Shingary shut her down. Kind of shut her down. UB gave up 40 shots on the game, which is a big
40 shots, but technically West Virginia did not score a goal.
Well, the box score says 41, so I already adjusted that. We never talked about that. UB forced overtime, and it was the most ridiculous thing to ever happen. And then so John texted me at 40 minutes into the game and said, "Can we think about a 0-0 tie?" And I said, "I've been thinking about a 0-0 tie for 25 minutes already." But as the game went on, I was happier and happier because if UB was going to lose, it was clear that it would only be a 1-0 loss, which other teams that have only given up one goal to West Virginia this year, number 9 Virginia Tech, number 4 Penn State, and Maryland, who Maryland's not ranked but is a historically very strong soccer program. And even if you don't look soccer-wise, those are all power conference schools.
And as of today, Florida Gulf, you can add Florida Gulf Coast to that list.
Oh, is there trouble in Morgantown? That actually, I wish you hadn't have told me that. Now I feel less amazing. Further and further in the game, I started to think like, like our defense is holding up here. And then Dougal made a couple amazing saves. We got into overtime. Shingary cleared a ball 2 feet off the line. It was her best play of the night on a night where, again, she shut down Ashley Lawrence. And then the goal was an own goal. And still just a tremendous, amazing showing, but an own goal. And what happened was UB flushed Michaela Abam down. I think it wasn't Abam. It was whoever ran up their left side. Down to the line, she just sent a cross in, and it bounced off Andrea Kniper's shin. And this is where I get myself into trouble, John. At first, I was like, well, Michaela Abam was right there. If it goes through Kniper, it bounces off Michaela's shin, and it's a West Virginia goal anyway. But the more I look at it, the more I don't think that was the case. The more I think Abam had moved too far upfield, and I think it slides across to Jackie Hall, and she clears it. And by this point, there's 2 minutes left in the first overtime. And by this point, I was like, we're going to get this tie, and I'm going to go nuts. And then we lost 1-0, and it was still awesome. Amazing. One of the best games. I think I tweeted 20 minutes after the fact. I was like, all I can do is just sit here, and I don't really know what to do next, because that was one of the best defensive performances I've seen in any sport ever. And then football happened, and there's competition there. But we don't talk about football here. Just an amazing game. It was just amazing.
I would say the difference between women's soccer and football is that the women's soccer team took on one of the best in the country and did it. Football took on a team that has
been its starting quarterback
that has been historically bad, like really bad. So I give the edge to the women's soccer team.
Oh, damn, I missed it. Apparently James Starks just ran for 35 yards.
Oh, yeah, he did.
He did. We don't talk about football, so John didn't tell us. Yes, I agree with that. That makes sense to me. But the difference, the other thing that flips it for me is like women's soccer played like Iran against Argentina. You know, Buffalo football's defense took it to them in a way that's never really been seen before.
But when the women's soccer's if the defense could do that against West Virginia, that makes me all the more confident going into MAC play.
I'll hold my tongue, but yes, that is right. Let me say this and make sure I put "if" in front of my statement. If the defense plays like that against everybody, and against MAC teams, they probably won't need 10 players to do it. They can probably do it with 7 or 8. If the defense plays like that, nobody is scoring on this team until the NCAA tournament. That's how good the defense was. That's it. I do for a moment want to highlight this few small little bits of offense that UB got. By few, I mean 2. Julia Benatti got the ball at midfield and was tackled by Kadisha Buchanan, and absolutely horrible call. Buchanan was given a yellow card. It was not a yellow card at all. But the resulting free kick from that was another foul when Cassie Kidd delivered it into the box, and then UB got a free kick from like 20 yards out. And I was like, if Jackie Hall puts this ball into the net, because Julia Benatti was the beneficiary of a bad call 40 yards upfield, UB didn't even have to get the ball over the midline to get it all the way up here. And then Jackie Hall put it 15 yards over the net, and I don't know why they had her do the free kick. Actually, I do know why, because if they put her in to try and pick up the header, then she's not able to run back on defense. That's it. Well, I should have thought that out before the podcast. And then the only other chance was Rebecca Bramble, fast as all hell, freshman from Canada, Southern Ontario, going right at Buchanan, right at her. I don't know. She was never going to score, but she tried to make something happen, earned a foul, and this one was a justifiable foul. And then I don't remember what UB did with the free kick. I think West Virginia's second yellow card came before the free kick was delivered, and then whatever they actually did with the free kick wasn't anything. But that's it. That was UB's offense for the game. But I really just wanted to highlight Rebecca Bramble because she went right after Buchanan and actually made something happen. Now, I don't really want to let off the women's soccer game and there, but I don't have anything else to say. So,
yeah.
I made a mistake in my video recap of that game. I thought that they opened the season at home, but I must have been thinking of someone else. They open their MAC slate next weekend on the road at Ohio and at Kent State.
Really? Because on the school's website, it has them at home.
Well, then I said at home, and then I ignored it for a few days, and then I checked my personal calendar doc that I've been using, and I had it on the road there. And
on the UB website, it has Ohio and Kent at home.
And I should have checked that today. Well, now I need to go and edit another post. I've been editing posts as we've been talking. Fix it back. Great. Well, they're at home this weekend, and last year they went on the road and needed double overtime to beat Ohio, but that's when Katie Roberts was doing her thing and scoring goals everywhere. And Kent State's terrible. Ohio's pretty bad too. Kent State, though, has a half-decent goalie. I believe Stephanie Sen is at Kent State. And I think that Sen was second team All-MAC last year behind Dougal, which was strange because there were better goalies in the conference than Sen. But she made lots of saves because Kent State's defense was terrible. This is, we rambled, now we're down to, back up to 1. Every time I say 0 viewers, we get back to 1. This is where the inconsistency needs to stop from women's soccer. I'm absolutely fine with their offensive game plan, or 0. It was 0 against West Virginia. I'm very happy with how things played against Binghamton. I'm okay if they miss near chances and hit posts and things. I'm not okay if they pass up shots or they wait too long to pull the trigger, as we've seen against Niagara and we've seen against other teams. It's MAC play now. UB needs to, maybe not needs, but should come out of this weekend 2-0 in the MAC. And if they don't, I will consider it a disappointment. And I love women's soccer dearly. They are absolutely my favorite team in all of sports after what they did last year and the role that, we had at Bull Run and covering that from the ground floor. But they're a good enough team that they should win both these games.
Yeah, I think as far as the consistency goes, when I was that grueling week of 3 home games with Syracuse, Niagara, and Binghamton, I saw a distinct change from the Syracuse Niagara game to the Binghamton game, and like last year, Binghamton was game number 7. Game 7 last year was when the UB offense really started to click. The UB offense clicked. 7th game this year. So maybe it's lucky number 7. Who knows? I think the offense will be okay.
Yeah, I mean, you were there. You were in person. I struggle with that because all the chatter after Syracuse from the team was, this is the game that changes. This is where we put it together. And then they came out against Niagara and did not have it together. But they had a players only meeting the night before Binghamton, and then they just came out and looked like they were having tons and tons of fun. And scored 3 goals. So
the
we'll
Niagara
see,
game,
and then they go ahead.
Niagara game was it was missed opportunity. I think every time UB got a chance, it was called offsides.
Yeah, well, that's.
I mean, if I took a shot for every time UB went offside, was called offsides, I probably would have been dead from alcohol poisoning.
Did you tell me it was 10 in the first? Actually, I'm going to look it up right now. Oh my goodness, it's already 11. We need to talk about who?
Men's tennis.
It's already 11. This is only supposed to be an hour-long show. I try not to save women's soccer for the end because this happens, but it happened anyway. John, are you able to say anything about men's tennis, or should I just roll into it?
The men's tennis was split this weekend. Some were at the Princeton Invitational. Then some others played Binghamton. I know at the Princeton Invitational, Amar Hromic. I'm gonna butcher.
I pronounce it Amar Hromic, but I've made that up in my head. So
he was the dude that transferred from Central Florida. If you followed men's tennis at all.
We cover it. We're not assuming that you follow it, but we do cover it. We did tell you about that guy. So, yeah, he had a good showing.
Yeah, he beat a guy
was
from
it Hromic who beat Hazarenka? Who beat Sid from? Or no,
Bingo?
I'm getting mixed up. Go ahead. I pompously asked you if you had been keeping up with it, and I don't even remember my notes. So go ahead.
Oh yeah, I'm talking about Penn right now. Bingo.
I know.
Yeah,
I know.
Bingo's coming next. So Pablo Alvarez, he lost against a guy from Brown.
A freshman from Brown. I didn't include that in the recap, but I'm especially annoyed that it's a freshman. Not that I can do anything about it.
Yeah, Sergio, the hero from the MAC championships last year, he won 2 of his singles matches against a guy from Miami and Penn.
I feel like we need a nickname for Sergio, but it really is just like it's just Sergio, and like now Sergio just means like ridiculously clutch comeback, and we don't need a nickname.
And freshman Ethan Natolo also defeated a guy from Princeton.
Natolo, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, I should go back and check and see if these schools updated because I forgot that the brackets were unfinished when I wrote that piece. Yeah, Natolo. Be excited about Natolo. I won't. He was probably one of the best players in New York City last year in high school. So be excited about him. I think he's in the consolation final. Natolo was I don't remember. I know that Chantel on the women's side was a 4-star.
Oh, okay. So that might have been who I was thinking of.
Yeah, but I could believe it. I've got the whatever I call it website up now. Boy, it's been a long day.
Yeah, it has been.
So that's Penn or Princeton, excuse me. Oh, Natolo was 4-star as well. Good work, John.
Hey, I know things. And then the other section of the men's team was playing Binghamton, and we all hate Binghamton.
We really
and
hate Binghamton.
yes, we hate Binghamton. Real big story there was Akil Mehta. He knocked off Sid.
Hey, John, you want to hazard a guess what country Akil Mehta's from?
I'm gonna guess Canada.
He's from Canada.
Hey, another Canadian. Take a shot.
Hey. Actually, I think women's tennis might not have anyone from Canada.
I know they have a few Eastern European people.
Yeah. Keep talking, and I'll find.
So he beat Sid from Binghamton, and not the Sid from Toy Story that likes to burn toys.
But for all we know, Sid Hazarenka likes to burn toys too.
I mean, he might like to burn toys. I don't know.
I mean, he's if you're the number one singles player for Binghamton, I just feel like one goes with the other.
So you have daddy issues?
Oh, I won't go that far.
Yeah, I'm a terrible person. But Mehta knocked him off. Said he was the number one seed in that bracket, and he ended last season on fire, winning 7 of his last 9 matches in singles and doubles. And
when I wrote that sentence, 7 of the last 9 singles and doubles, I mean he won 7 of his last 9 singles and 7 of his last 9 doubles.
Oh.
Yeah, I had a feeling that you didn't read it that way. He really
on both singles and
very, very good last year for Binghamton, especially in the second half of the season.
Noah Anderson won 1, lost 1, and we don't know the status of Tony Miller after he lost his first, pending updating the brackets because Binghamton is stupid too, just like Syracuse.
I don't understand why you host a tournament in any sport and don't update your stuff.
See, that's why I like wrestling, because that shit is updated. Pardon my French. No kids are probably gonna be watching. It's 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
But
well, if Kevin G is our one viewer, he's got a new baby. I hope he's not holding him on his lap.
Yeah. But the wrestling stuff is updated in real time. That's why I like it. It's updated in real time, and you can follow it. Oh, it's awesome.
That's not quite the reason you like it, but it is a nice thing.
Well, okay, we're talking semantics here.
We're talking semantics. Yeah, so when schools host wrestling things, they update their site. When schools host tennis and volleyball things, they ignore every other team who's showed up and only talk about themselves. And we don't like that. Let's see. Let's get some updates here. Akil Mehta lost in the final to Binghamton's number 2, Elliot Hero. So that sucks. Same guy that beat out Noah Haidu Anderson. That's another name that I'm not sure how to pronounce, but Hajdu. I feel like it's Haidu. So that guy, Binghamton's number 2, took out 2 UB guys. That sucks. And then the only other guy is Tony Miller in this one. And he, I don't remember which bracket he was in. They didn't update Tony Miller at all, but at some point he lost to someone. That's all I can say. He didn't win the consolation bracket. There's literally, he lost his first match and there's no opponent given. There's no winner of that match given. There's no winner of the subsequent match given. But somehow, Mr. Lulis Weniger, who's probably Lucas from Niagara, that's all messed up. Anyway, we still don't know what happened to Tony. Let's look at doubles real quickly. At Binghamton.
While you're looking at that, Brian Wolf just tweeted out that the volleyball team has made it back to Buffalo before the stats made it to his email inbox.
Hey, Syracuse. Hey, Syracuse, screw you.
So an email that travels literally at the speed of light has not gotten here because someone hasn't pressed the send button before the 2-hour drive back from Syracuse.
Yeah. So we still don't know how things wrapped up at Princeton. Doubles, Haidu Anderson and Oh, I closed it out. Well, they won one match and then descended into the consolation. So that's okay. Kind of tough to gauge men's tennis right now. But it's always good to beat people from schools like Brown and, Penn and Penn State. And even begrudgingly, it's good to beat Binghamton. They were a MAC finalist last year. Technically, we won the MAC finals 4-2, and it looks like a landslide, which is hilarious because we were down 2-0 and on the verge of going down 4-0, and the whole thing being over in 55 minutes. Of the two remaining, we don't need to rehash the MAC championship right now. But I love that technically we won that 4-2 despite needing a massive legendary comeback. That's all we're going to find out about tennis. We're overtime. Next weekend, we've already talked about women's soccer and men's soccer and volleyball. Men's tennis and women's tennis generally alternate. I don't think because of any coordination, but just because of how it kind of happens. Women's tennis goes to the West Virginia Invitational, which they competed at last year. And if you give me a moment to look it up, I'm trying to remember if Tanya Stoyanovska showed an image of how good she would be at last year's West Virginia Invitational. I'm going to need to do this differently. I should have had this dialed up. But Stoyanovska stepped right in as UB's number one, but she only went 1-2. Whereas Margarita Kotak, who was UB's super freshman of 2 years ago, was 3-0. So the West Virginia Invitational will be real valuable to see what the pecking order is for women's tennis. Chantel Martinez Blanco looks like she might be the new number one, which means that in 3 successive years, we brought a new freshman who immediately goes to our number one singles spot, which you don't need to know a lot about tennis to see that's a good thing for recruiting. And in their first competition, 2 other freshmen who we weren't expecting to show up, Mercedes Losada Rubio and Sanjana Sudhir, both impressed last week. I think Rubio a little bit more. But that's what we'll be watching for from women's tennis is just what's the shakeout of the order. And hopefully they get some wins and play well. But I really want to see what the new pecking order is. They've only lost one person from last year. Oh, 2, excuse me. Laura Fernandez graduated and Doris Alexovska left. But she was only here for half the year last year anyway. But women's tennis is at West Virginia. It'll be an even lighter week next week with only 4 teams in action. That's pretty standard for a fall weekend. And although next week we're also going to be talking swimming previews.
And wrestling previews not too long after that.
Yeah, swimming gets a month-long head start on wrestling. Swimming is only 11 days away, which is actually really weird. Wrestling isn't until after Halloween, one day after Halloween. Anyway, we've been going on too long. We told you everything we have to say. Thank you for watching. Even if you weren't watching now and you're watching in the future for me, but the present for you, except you would have been watching in the past because it's done now. We both need some sleep. I'm Matt Gritzmacher for UB Bull Run. I just got a facepalm from John. That's about how this stuff goes. We do this podcast, all of UB's Olympic sports, every Sunday at 10 p.m. It's good to have you watching. Tune in next week. Have a good one.